Okay, so maybe we should begin as people are entering the virtual room. So welcome everyone. Happy New Year. It's been an interesting start to the year, at least here in the United States. I am Huri Berbeyan, Professor of History, Merouni Family Presidential Chair in Armenian Studies, and Director of the Center for Armenian Studies. This webinar is part of the Vahe and Armine Merouni lecture series. We would like to thank the Merounis as well as the UCI Department of History and the UCI Global Middle East Studies for co-sponsoring this event. We are delighted to have with us Tamara Stepanyan, the award-winning filmmaker of Ganans Kura, Village of Women, which I hope you were able to catch as it screened on our YouTube channel for the last few days. Last time I checked, which was just about 15 minutes ago, it had 999 views. So I didn't check again because I actually like that number. And I wanted to stop there. We will begin the webinar with a brief introduction and discussion, and then I'll open the floor to audience questions. So please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to send your questions. And one of you has already figured out how to do that, so I'm happy about that. Please make your questions clear and concise, and we will get to them soon. So let me introduce, first of all, our wonderful guest. Tamara Stepanyan is a film director and producer. She was born in Armenia during the breakdown of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. She moved to Lebanon with her parents, where she studied and worked, and she pursued her studies later on at the National Film School of Denmark in creative documentary under the supervision of Arne Bro. She made a number of films that were shown and primed in prestigious festivals like Locarno, Busan, and La Rochelle. She's also busy teaching cinema courses in schools. Her film, Village of Women, has won several awards, and of course, having seen it, you understand why. For example, Best Direction at Sole Luna Documentary Film Festival in Palermo, Italy, the prize from the Curatorium Cimbricum Veronense in memory of Piero Piazzolla and Mario Pigozzi for the best film by a young director at Della Lesinia International Film Festival in Italy, as well as 30 Stars Étoile Award for the best documentaries of the year at Étoile de la Scam in France. The film is an intimate and powerful portrait of women, lucidly contrasting the mundane of every day with the exceptional of their circumstances. It is an eloquent contemplation on absence, whether through capturing words, gazes, and gestures of the women themselves. I would like to invite you, if you would like to say a few words about the film yourself.
Of course. Hello, good morning, good evening, everybody around the world. Huri, thank you very much for this invitation and for this introduction. It's a pleasure and it's quite flattering. What would I like to say? Well, first of all, it's good that people watch, so now we can discuss it. I will be more than happy to hear your point of views, your questions. Maybe what I should say, I don't like much to talk about before. I like to more develop on questions, but maybe what I could just say that it's a film that's very dear to my heart. Of course, all my films are very dear to my heart, but this one has a particular little spot because it's a very intimate portrait of a society of all these women, present, men, absent, a whole country. For me, it represents much more than just a a village of women. It's about my country. It's about the pain of immigration, the joy of immigration, maybe also. So it has a lot of aspects, and maybe being myself, living outside for so many years, I share a lot. There's something, that's why I say it's very intimate for me, this film. And I'm really happy that it can be seen today, that I managed to do this film, because it was not an easy task. It's a film that I've done almost all alone. I've shot it literally alone, me, myself, and my camera. So that's why I in the beginning, I think I didn't believe that I would make it one day when I started. It was tough, but I'm glad I did. And so I'm glad that you watched, and then I'm glad that we can talk now.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll start us off, if I may, and then we'll come to the questions. So actually, before even I saw the film, when I read a description of the film, it reminded me of a historical case of not a village of women, but a town of women in 17th century New Julfa, Isfahan in Iran. Armenian women in New Julfa, basically a mercantile town, a town of merchants. These were Armenian merchants, they're silk traders who traveled extensively and regularly. They were very successful merchants, that part of a global network, who traveled so extensively, so regularly. They were gone at times for months, even years sometimes. So women were left in New Julfa basically alone. So they became head of households. They sold and bought property. They took care of everything. The wills, the petitions, the title transfers, everything was done by them while the men were away. So in a sense, they did things that we normally associate with highly patriarchal societies. And it gave them a sense of empowerment and freedom and independence that they wouldn't have otherwise had. So to me, obviously it resembled that. The difference, however, is that in that case, 17th century New Julfan women or that case itself, the men are leaving because they are part of a global, powerful commercial network. In the contemporary case, the men are leaving because of economic decline, disempowerment.
Yes.
And so to me, that was a very stark difference in the two cases. But there was one woman, I forget her name, who had the opportunity to leave with her husband to Russia because her son's family was also in Russia.
Yeah, Shushan.
And she didn't want to leave.
No.
And I often wondered, as I was listening to her, to what extent part of why she didn't want to leave, although she didn't say it, was maybe she thought her independence and her freedom would be limited by being in Russia.
Well, you understood it then.
Okay.
Because especially Shushan is the kind of woman who had education, who had a kind of a career. She worked, and she didn't want to be diminished to some kind of a little bed somewhere in the little room. She didn't want to this kind of life. She wanted her freedom, her garden, her cows, her her life on her own, where she decides. So when she sleeps, when she wakes up, what she does, what she eats, she's independent, of course. And it's yeah, I mean, considering about Shishan, but it's very interesting that what you say, because I didn't know about this historical fact, and I'm very happy to know, because the resemblance is there's something, a resemblance, and at the same time there's something totally opposite. Because it's true that the women, in a way, because Armenia, we all know it's a kind of patriarchal society, let's say. And we all know that men decide, men do this, men do that. But at the same time, as I observed this village for a year, I realized that actually men, they don't decide anything. No, it's true. They decide by maybe if I directly ask the question to a woman, she would say, no, I it's my husband who decides. And I say, where is your husband? I mean, he's somewhere in Russia. Sometimes you don't even manage to talk to her. So no, it's not him. And because sometimes even women are afraid to say, yes, I decide. Yes, I do this or I do that. Not all of them. Some of them are happy to say, I decide, I change this. If the door is broken, I changed my door. If the window is broken, I change it. If this is I need it, I do it. So
Mm,
yes, some of them are proud, some of them are shy. It's different, but but definitely there's something very empowering
mm,
about in all those villages, all these very strong women, because it's I mean, I think we living in the Western world, we don't imagine what it is like
mm,
having to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, take care of the cows, send them to the mountains, take care of the kids, send them to school, do the garden, do the house, take care of the kids. I mean, it's just, I think we, yeah. Anyway.
mm. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, I have some other questions, but why don't we take some questions from the audience? So one of the questions is, how did you get these people to agree to be filmed? What was the process like gaining their trust, and was it different with the women versus the men?
So, well, actually, it took a time. It didn't happen just like one, two, three, and then they agreed no, because especially Armenian women are very proud, as you know, and Armenian women, they wouldn't want me to have pity on them, or they wouldn't want me to use their situation in a kind of, oh, I'm so sorry for you. No, because and definitely that was not what I wanted to do. So I approached these women with curiosity. I approached these women with a lot of interest for them to understand how are they living this absence, how they are, what is it giving to them, and what is it taking from them. And I wanted to understand really how they live this waiting. And I approached them with a very sincere, let's say, womanly approach.
Mm,
And of course, in the beginning, they were cautious with me. They wouldn't just go along and say, but first I would say, but why do you really care? You're an Armenian living in Paris. I mean, you must have a kind of an easy life. Of course, I mean, they don't know what it means to live in Europe, but why do you come here to this little village, and why are you curious of us? And when
mm,
I explained to them why I was curious of them, and slowly we started to become, I don't know, I wouldn't say friends, because it was more like something sisterly, more something family. Yeah, and then slowly they started opening me up, and I didn't start to film in the beginning. I took a time to really install my camera, the sound, and a lot of times I would just let them somewhere, the camera and the sun. I would just spend time to get to know them, and they get to know me, because making a documentary film is not like it's not like I wrote the script. I went there, I said, okay, well, let's look at the script now, and let's say who's going to say what. No, it's their life, and if they don't want to open up to me, and then I have nothing to do there. It's
mm,
clear. So it was a long process, but it was a beautiful process. We shared a lot of conversations, midnight conversations, which build up this film. And was it different men from women? No, you know what's funny is that it was very much more easier with men, actually, much more easier. But I think, yeah, to just last point about women, it was also because they understood that what I wanted to do with this film was to show how beautiful and strong they are. I didn't want to show this kind of, the poor woman that's baking the bread, that's working the house. No, I don't. I mean, of course, there is, yeah, I'm showing them baking the bread and everything, but the idea was not to show not to have pity on them. And I think as soon as they understood, they just let it go. And men, I think it was a kind of, because these men, I met them in the winter. So summer and autumn, I mean, and these women, they would talk a lot about me to their husbands. So when the husbands came, they had the feeling they knew me. I mean, when they came, Tamara Jan, come, okay, so, oh, okay, okay, hello, everybody. Okay, let's drink vodka and start, so we kind of, it was way more easier with men. They, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's a woman men thing. I don't know, but it was way more easier. Yeah.
Mhm. But I noticed your relationship with the retired men was interesting because they
That's the
kept
best part.
they kept trying to draw you in. They would call you by name. I mean, you spoke on camera in a sense. I mean, we heard your voice when you spoke to the when you were with the women, but
Yeah.
you were never drawn in by the men. I mean, they tried to speak to you, but we never heard you.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, was that intentional or did you try, was your I mean, your relationship was very different with the retired men than it was with the women.
Yes, because with the women, we had what I called a kind of sisterhood.
Mhm.
It was something very united. So we would really share something. With the men, I was more of, I was more like the little girl who's there to talking to this old man, and they would treat me a bit like their granddaughter, or like, hey,
Mhm.
Tamara Jan, come here, and of course, and it's also, and I think what I wanted to do with elderly, I really wanted them to exist alone.
Mhm.
They didn't want to be part of it. Of course, sometimes you hear me talking or asking questions, but with the women, there's something more homogeneous. There's something more in dialogue. With the men, I wanted, in a way, them to be like this kind of, not a hero, but kind of this other thing,
Mhm.
that kind of letting them alone to exist without, it's not a real dialogue. I mean, with these men, I cannot really have a dialogue.
Mhm.
They talk all alone all the time, and I really wanted to capture this, they wake up and they start drinking at 11 a.m. So they just talk all the time, and that was, I was fascinated by, just capture this ambience.
Mhm. Did your training in film um, did it come out, did your training in film come out differently in this film because you, as a native of Armenia, you were tied to the film in a differently? I mean, how should I say it? How was your training in film come into play in the decisions you made vis-a-vis your relationship to the film
Hmm.
subjects?
Well, when I was studying in Denmark, because at first I studied in an American university in Lebanon, but I was more into fictional cinema. And then when I went into documentary filmmaking, what was interesting that my teacher, Arne Bro, that you said a while ago, Arne would always say, you really have to go deep into yourself in order to understand what you want to say.
Mm.
We don't pick up a subject just because it's nice or it's interesting or it's an actuality or it's make a boom or something. No, what do you care? Me, what I was really concerned about this particular film, and I think my training, maybe what you say, helped me, is I wanted to really understand all this. My country is being, and was being emptied of its men. Why on earth? Why on earth? I mean, we always have been people who have been immigrated all over the world, okay. But here it was really particularly men who are leaving homes behind, and and for me it was kind of, yeah, I really wanted to understand why. I was really troubled, actually. I think that's what I would say. I was really troubled by this, and it's been going on, and then one day I just said, okay, I'm gonna go and understand why on earth are these people leaving. And it's funny is that this why turned into more, to understand. It's not anymore about the why. We don't care much about the why they're living. Of course, we care, but I mean, the film is not treating that. Cinematographically, we're more treating this waiting, the anxiety, the joy of these women. It's not anymore about the why. But I would say it's more really to subjects. Even if my previous films, it's about subjects that are really troubling me, I would say.
Hmm. Oh.
Did I answer you? I don't know.
Yes, you did. So would you, okay, you did actually, but I'm wondering if, and this is based on one of the questions, would you have engaged differently if it was a village of, let's say, Vietnamese or any other kind of women?
It's an interesting question.
It might not be a fair question.
If I mean, why would I go to that village in Vietnam? First of all, I would ask myself the question. If it's somebody asks me to do, if it's like a TV channel is asking me to make a documentary about a village in Vietnam where men are gone, I think I would engage the same way. Yes, because I'm somebody who, when I get involved in a project, I put all my soul, heart, and everything in it. So yes, I would.
Mhm.
But then first I would ask the question, why would I go there?
Mhm.
What is taking me there?
Mhm.
And of course, it doesn't mean that I'm not curious of Vietnam. It's just that, as I said previously, there has to be something always in my project. There's something very personal
Yeah.
in what I do. I still haven't done something impersonal. Maybe it will come one day when I will be old and gray. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Um, was there something in particular about Lich or?
Um, Actually, it was about the region.
Hmm.
It was about Gerardkundig region, because with my research, I realized that most of the villages that are being emptied of its men are villages that are in Gerardkundig region.
Mhm.
But the choice of Lich, I must admit, was a bit a kind of hazard. I would say it in English. Hazardous? No, not hazardous. It was not studied decision. It came in a way by chance, let's say,
Mhm.
because I took a taxi, and I told the driver that I want to go to Gerardkundig region. He said, okay, but Gerardkundig is big. Where do you want to go? I told him about my project. He said, yes, it's true. There are several villages in this part next to Martuni. I said, yeah, that I want to go next to Martuni. And then when we got there, he said, it's actually the taxi driver who decided for me. He said, listen, there's this village and that village and that village, but I think Lich is the best. I said, okay, let it be. And then we went to Lich and we started in Lich, and then I found what I wanted in Lich, so I stayed there. But I guess if I didn't find what I wanted in Lich, I would go somewhere else next door. I would, go
Mhm.
around in the other villages. But it's more like a chance than a very, yeah. I knew the region. I knew that I wanted it to be next to Martuni, but yeah.
Okay, right. Um, One of the questions is a village of women was particularly powerful while watching it right after the asymmetrical war. Even if it depicted a painful story of economic decay and migration, it was an escape from the war as a form of post-Soviet, quote, normalcy. I wonder
Mm.
if in making this film you aim to capture realities that are increasingly being marginalized as merely post-Soviet.
Well, there is a part of that. There's absolutely a part of that. But I think also I mean, in all my films, there is a kind of a political aspect to it. There's always, yeah, my films always treat subjects that are kind of, I mean, I'm not somebody who's involved in politics, may God forbid, but I'm somebody who cares a lot of what's happening. And in a way, I make my point with my films, let's say. I take my political stand with my films. So yes, there is absolutely in that, but also there's another point that would be maybe kind of making the invisible visible, bringing out all these invisible people into a screen and making all of you see them, because I think none of you would have seen them otherwise. And I think they're worth to be seen.
Mm.
So it's kind of my way to, yeah, put a little spotlight on invisible people and marginalized stories, and you know, it's kind of, because actually it's also how they feel. They always say nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about us, no government, nothing. I mean, if you go to these villages and see what kind of life they have, you will realize that children, they have no, they boys have one activity, it's called box. Girls have one activity, it's called dance. There's nothing else. There's no cinema, no theater, no, I don't know, painting workshop, nothing, no library anymore. The library in Lich is held by a woman who used to be librarian back in the Soviet days. And when everything was locked down, she took all those books into her house. And today, of course, for free, you know, nobody's paying her, all those books, she's keeping them in order in her house. And people, children go and take books from there. I mean, there's nothing, not basic. I mean, there's not even kindergarten. So in a way, these people feel like nobody cares about us. And that's why they say, why do you care about us? Why are you coming all the way from your Paris and filming us?
Mhm.
Because I tell them, but I do care about you and I do want to show you into the world. And sometimes they make me, because some of them are on Facebook and they see my post, they make jokes. They're like, oh my God, you're showing us to the world. I said, well, it's great. And do I look beautiful? Do you think I'm this, I'm that? Come on, you all look very beautiful. So yeah.
Your comment about the box and the dance reminded me how segregated the village is in every way, every
Uh,
way. There was
yeah.
no make. I mean, granted, the men aren't there, but even with the retired men there, I mean,
Yeah.
for did the retired men have wives? Because I didn't see their wives.
It's funny that many people ask me this question. Do wives exist? Yes, some of them do have wives. Some of wives, one had a wife who passed away. Yes, they do have wives, but the wives stay home. Especially elderly women, they don't move a lot. Elderly women, they kind of check out on their stepdaughters, you know, the daughter
Mhm,
of their boys, of their sons, to see if she's doing well the job of the house, if she's taking well, you know, it's like she's the one who, it's the queen, you know, she's fixing up stuff, like taking care that everything is in order.
mhm,
And while men there live their life, no, there's not much, it's
mhm,
kind of unfortunate, but I felt there is not much connection between elderly men and women.
mhm.
Men really have their own life.
Yeah.
They wake up together, they drink together, they go to the river, they fish, they eat, they do everything alone.
Yeah.
It's kind of very separated
Mhm.
life. Yeah.
Tamara, to go back to your comment about the state, or I mean, to go back to your comment about
Mm,
nobody cares about us and so
yeah.
forth. Um, there's, I mean, this is from Talar actually. There's a glaring absence in the film, not just the men, but that of the state.
Yes.
Right? So country is present through the land. There's a sense of symbolic homeland through the songs.
Mm.
Um, so she's asking whether you can comment on the relationship between these three elements: country, land, homeland, and state, as it's understood by the community.
Well, I think like most of Armenians, they're very attached to their land. As you can see, all their songs, or they're so patriotic. It's always about genocide, Turkish. I mean, it is all the problems we always had as Armenians. They feel very attached to their land. They feel very attached to their home, to their country. But I don't think they feel anything for the state, actually. They don't feel no respect. They don't feel no, I would say, no attachment. I mean, at some point, the woman says, I mean, what is this state? Why do I have to live for 20 years missing my husband? What is this state? No, I think they have zero respect for the state. They have no, but at the same time, they're very, the land, often you can hear our water is different, our bread is different, our everything is different. Yes, but yeah, I think there's a kind of a big, vast hole between country, land, and state. There's a big, yeah, distance,
Mhm.
unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, and these men, and these women or these men, mostly men, they've tried to go to Yerevan to do studies, to work, to kind of have a normal life. I mean, Aram is the husband, the one who the box, the
Mhm.
father. Aram studied philosophy. I mean, having studied philosophy in Yerevan, what this guy could do? Nothing. Take the route to Moscow. Yeah. And then he's not the only one. Others also, they studied. One of them wanted to be an actor, another one wanted to do this and that. But they realized that, okay, he said, okay, we marry, we have children, we have to take care of them. So,
Wow.
mm.
Um, has the situation of the village changed at all since you made the film? I mean, for example, one of the questions is about the education of girls. Do they have any more educational opportunities than they did before?
No, I mean, honestly, once I showed the film in Lyon, in France, and there was this an important person from the state that came to me and said, "Yes, we have a project to develop education for children." Nothing has been done. No, no. On the education level, I am sad to say that nothing has changed for those children. Of course, I mean, when I call them, they make fun of me because the first thing I tell them, I said, "Are you reading books?" And they look at me and say, "Oh, Tamara Kurik, stop saying that. We don't have time." I said, "You don't have time? You have all the time in the world. And it's books, by books, you will get education. It's not by YouTube because they spend their time on YouTube." I mean, that's also a big, big problem because, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big problem because the how do we say, the state, let's say, is not really taking good care of their education, because all these children, in a way, the boys grew up saying, okay, I will be 18, I will go to do my military service, I'll come back 20, I will get married or not, go to Russia and work. And girls, okay, I will maybe learn hairdressing, or maybe being a nurse, it's kind of a very cliche, and I would say, but why do boys have to do this, girls have to do that, and what is this kind of mental? And of course, I mean, I try to bit provoke them and say, but you can do this, you can do. I said, look, I'm a film director, you can also do that, you can study to become one. And I remember Hasiko, the girl who dances in the film, and she would look at me with her big eyes, all fascinated, and she said, "Oh, but how is it possible?" I said, "How is it possible? Read books, have good grades, go and study, and then we'll see. Everything is possible." It's actually, they don't have a place to dream anymore. And that's
Mhm.
what's sad. Because this is also, that's the fault of the state, because the state is not giving them hope, a space to dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good way to put it. That
Mm,
that they don't have the space to dream anymore. And when that's ended, then there's
mm.
no room.
Yes, and
Nothing.
for example, Sahag, the little boy that the box that likes to box, he has like God knows how many medals. He's a champion in his own category. I mean, he was telling me that he's hoping through box to kind of not follow the same path of his father. In a way, hoping that he will get so famous through boxing that he doesn't have to go to Russia. He wants to just be a champion. I don't know. And I was telling him, yes, yes, then you can grow up, study in the sports academy, try to, yes, get further than going to Russia. And doing construction work for Russians.
Mhm. Yeah. So many artists and scholars on the global stage try to find a balance, a successful balance between creating works that are based on sort of what we care about, that is personal, but is also not sort of boxed into a purely, let's say, Armenian type,
Mhm.
um, and that is also creative and so forth. So how do you negotiate between being both global, worldly, but also sort of local and native? Because A Village of Women, I think, does both
Mhm.
very successfully.
Well, I think because it's who I am, in a way that I grew up in I'm born in Armenia, but I grew up a bit everywhere in the world. So in a way, I think it represents also my path. In a way, I guess. Um, I mean, I was born in Armenia, grew up in Lebanon. Now I live in France, and in between, I traveled on a lot. So it's kind of it's also maybe I don't like to be one, I like to make films that are open, that are a bit large, they're big, to talk to, I don't want to talk to one narrow line of Armenians that's not interesting. If tomorrow I'll make a film about a village in Vietnam, I would like you to see them, because it won't be only for Vietnamese people about their village. No, I think cinema is, that's also the beauty of cinema, is to take something small and make it big. We have that magic, I guess.
I think I've inspired you to work on Vietnam.
I think so. I'm already starting to think.
So
I'm
are you, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sure there's a lot to do there, and why not
I'm
Vietnam?
sure.
I've always dreamt of going there.
It's a beautiful country.
You've been?
Yes, yes. Are you in touch with the women?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've been in touch since I finished the film, and we're in touch now, and they're following up with me. I'm following up with them. During the war, I was all the time in contact with all of them, because some of them had relatives who went to war. Shushan's nephew went, and he disappeared. I mean, we still have no news of him, so I'm still in contact to understand. Well, I guess, and it's very strange, because this young boy, he wanted to study cinema, and I met him at Shushan's house, and we had this long talk, and he was the one who told me about the librarian, because he would go and take books from her, and he entered university to study cinema, actually,
Hmm.
and now nobody knows where he is. So yeah, we've been, of course, we're definitely in contact, and they nag a lot that I'm not going to Armenia recently. They say, it's not fair, you're stuck in your Paris. I said, no, it's not like I want to be stuck in my Paris. I would like to come, but it's kind of complicated with Corona situation and all that. But I think I'll go soon.
Have they seen the film?
No, no, they haven't seen, because I wanted to. There was one screening in Yerevan in November. It was just during the war, and they couldn't make it.
Hmm.
And yeah, but they will. I mean, I hope to show them this summer, because I'm planning to go to Yerevan. So I will make a big screening and invite all of them, get them in a truck and get bus to get them to Yerevan and show them. Because I
Mhm.
think they don't want, first I wanted to do a screening in Lich, but they don't want it. So, and I respect that, and I understand why they don't want. They're too shy. Yeah.
But what was the reaction in Armenia? I mean, we know the international reaction has been
Yeah.
very good, but what
Mhm.
was the reaction in Armenia?
I think it was very much appreciated. But to be honest, as I was not there, I had few interviews with few journalists, but I had a feeling it was appreciated. But I didn't have much communication with anybody. I mean, I was here. There was only one screening.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, 100 to 150 people saw it. So I didn't have the chance, unfortunately, because when it happens during a festival, there's a lot of movement. People go, people come, but now because of COVID and then because of the war, everything was kind of, was quite stagnated. So unfortunately, no, I have no clue. Maybe in the summer, if there will be screening, I will know more, hopefully.
Mhm. Would you say that the approach to this film was very different or from your previous ones?
Approach, cinematographic approach, or
In any way?
anyway, it was different in a way, but at the same time, it's similar in other ways.
Mhm.
In this film, I wanted to explore another style, let's say, if I compare to my previous film, which called Those from the Shore, that I shot in Marseille, in France. It's very different stylistically, extremely different. It's a black and white film, very static, very slow, very dark. So I wanted something, yeah, I think they're different, but at the same time, there are certain themes and certain kind of little lines that are very similar.
Mhm.
And I think it's also I mean I am who I am, but I develop. So with my films, I'm in a way the same, and at the same time I'm different. So because I'm changing, and anyway, I don't like to do the same thing again and again. So each time I try to search something new, something
Mhm.
different, something that I haven't done. Otherwise, it's not interesting. If it's the same, it's really boring for me.
Absolutely, yes. So what are your plans? Are you working on something now or you have some projects in the
Yeah,
works?
I'm working on. Just before I answer your question, do you want me to look at those questions or no?
I have been drawing from
I
them, but I think
Okay,
we
for
have a new one right now.
okay.
Uh,
No, I will answer your question, and then there was another question I
yes,
want.
I saw a new one. Yeah.
Um, so I have two projects. I have a new documentary which is 100% archival. That's again, I'm searching for something new.
Mhm.
It's I have another, and then I'm in writing process of my first fiction length film, feature length. So basically now I have two projects: a documentary and a feature film, a feature fiction.
Mhm.
Recently, I got a big kind of an important grant from the National Cinema Center in France for writing
Congratulations.
it. Thank you. So, and from Armenia too, I got another grant. It's for the
Excellent.
writing of this new fictional film. Yes, I'm in two projects, quite massive ones. I hope I'll get them up, pull them out with time. So basically, I'm waiting now for this situation in Armenia to get a bit more stable so I can go and start to work on them. Because as you realized, I work a lot in Armenia. So I live in Paris, but I work a lot in Armenia. So yes, I have two projects, and
Excellent. We look forward to them.
uh,
Um,
hopefully.
so, so let's say, which would you like to take?
There's one
Or,
that Hakopian that's saying,
yes.
how would be the best way to
Yeah.
help this woman? Would it be by buying equipment? Would it be by renovating library, starting in kindergarten? Ah, wow. Okay. If Ani Hakopian John, I will tell you how you can help. Now, what you say the first thing you change about the vision? I think what basically, if I had the kind of the magical stick, like fairies.
A wand, yes.
Yeah, I would have loved to first of all really add a kind of a structure to create a structure in this village where children, as I was telling before, will have the place to dream. Well, they will know that it's not only boxing is for guys, dancing is for girls. No, that there's so many opportunities that a child can do, a child can grow up with, and and all, even for these women, that they don't only, the only place that these women can work is the cantina, like the in the school where children eat.
Mm.
There are 6 women who work. They don't have salaries as payment. What they get as payment is food, like packets of macaroni, I don't know, another packets of rice. That's their salary. But at least they do something and they get something in return. It's the only 6 posts that exist in the whole village for women. That's not normal. That's not normal. I mean, and one of them, one of the women, who the one who got married without knowing her husband when she was very young, Narine said, I did everything to be able to be independent, so that if one day my husband decides not to come back anymore, I can feed my children, and I can be sure that my children will have the proper education to become somebody good in their life, something I couldn't do myself. So I was really amazed by this woman. She always wanted to study. She never did because her father married her off. She got married. She has 2 boys, and she's working so hard, this woman, in the school cantina. She cooks every day, that she can, she tells me, I don't wait money for my husband. I take care of my children. I take care of my house. I do everything. If he sends, great. If he doesn't, may God be with him. So, and I was looking at her and I said, what a courage to say that. And Narina is an example, but I'm sure there's so many that exist like her. And of course, I think the if we had the chance to create places to work for these women, places where they could become somebody different, not just somebody who works the land or who takes care of the cows, or who, no, somebody that can be useful for society, useful for herself, help her husband financially, like we all do in the Western world. I mean, Europe, in America, we all work. We don't let the husband bring the money home. Few women wait do that now. So yeah, basically creating kindergarten, I think women dream of that. Actually, if there's one thing I think they really dream of, is that there's a kindergarten, because until the age of 6, these kids are at home all day long. They do nothing because their mom is busy, doing stuff, and they're all day long in front of their YouTube channels watching whatever. And I think the parents or the mothers, I mean, they would really their garden, or I don't know, see, or something. Yeah, there's so much to be done. I would say create a cinema, create a culture, like cultural spot. I don't know, some place where people could do could read books, could watch films, could share ideas, get together
Yeah.
outside school. I mean, yeah.
Uh, are men in general against their daughter's education, or was it an isolated case where one of the fathers was against her
Yeah,
daughter?
that's consider that was 15 years ago. So back in the days, I think, I mean, to be just about this, it's not that men are against their daughters to study, but they don't see the point actually. They say, okay, anyway you're going to get married, and anyway you're going to take care of the kids, and anyway you're not going to work. What's the aim for you to study? So it's horrible to say this, but it's a sad reality. I mean, they don't see the point in women's education. It's very sad. Of course, it's extremely sad. And I think the only women that had education out of all these women I met was Shushan, the elderly woman, because she's now 66 years old. So basically, when she was going to university, we were still in the Soviet days. And
Yeah.
back in those days, it was way more easy, let's say, for girls to study. And she studied accounting in Martuni, and Martuni is just 7 kilometers away. You know, it's a city, Martoni. It's not a village. So there are universities there, and people could absolutely go and study there. I'm not telling them to go all the way to Yerevan to study. They can study in there's branches of Yerevan universities in Martoni, but I think they don't see the aim of it. Unfortunately, they don't have. If they study something, it would be either like hairdressing or nursing, becoming a nurse, or like doing a manicure pedicure, like esthetician, yeah, what they would study, what they were telling me, the girls. Basically that's what they were. And one girl said, I want to become a designer. And when I said designer of what, she goes like, designing nails. And I was like, come on, there's so much more to do in the world than just becoming hairdresser or designing nails. But they don't see actually opportunities, they don't see options, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the sad part of the. It's not that they're against women to study, no, definitely not. It's more than I think they see no aim in it. And
But it's
girls,
interesting.
yeah,
It's interesting because that's the argument about what are girls going to do with an education is
yeah,
an argument that has been in place for a century. It hasn't changed at
yes,
all.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that's the sad part. Uh,
that's the sad part, absolutely.
yeah. Um, do you, one of the questions is, do you figure in your other films the way you did in this one?
Do you figure myself, you mean?
Yeah. Are you in your other films the way
Yeah.
you are in this one?
It depends. It depends. In my first documentary film, I was quite present,
Hmm.
way more than here. I would say in my second documentary film, I was way more absent. And no, it's different. And then, so when I start a film, I put kind of rules. I say, okay, in this film, I'm gonna do this way, but it never turns out the same. Never. I always say something and I do something different, and it's always because of the way I shoot and the way that's also the beauty of documentary. You cannot really decide in advance everything like 100% what's going to happen. And in this film, through shooting and like filming, I realized that it was more about this kind of intimate dialogue. So I had to be there, but at the same time not much. So I
Hmm.
kind of tried to leave them the space, the nature, the land, to take them in and make them exist. But I was in a way there, and in a discreet way. I don't know how
Hmm.
you see it, but yeah. It depends on the film. It really depends what it's actually what the film inspires me to do. It's I always decide, yes, I said it's going to be this and that, but it's at the end it's the film itself that tells me what will happen. The people, the land, the camera, the sound, everything. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Um, the one of the questions is about sort of your I guess your editorial
yes, I see this.
decisions. How
Hundreds of
how do you
hours.
decide what you
I
want to
had
show?
88 hours. To be very precise with you, Hushik Nazarian, I had 88 hours. And it was very difficult because the film is only an hour and a half, which means I had to cut 86 hours and a half. It was a very long process, the editing. I have a very good editor, and I'm lucky to work with him. And I think we spent 2 months just watching and choosing, choosing and watching and cutting and putting back. And editing is it's a one of them. It's kind of a magical phase in the documentary filmmaking, because first I write the film and then I film the film and then I edit. So for me, I make this film 3 times, because in 3 times it's very different. The writing is something, shooting is something, and editing. And in editing, I rewrite the film and I reshoot the film and I redo the film. I don't know if it's clear what I say.
Mm.
So and then my most favorite part is the editing, because it's just like you have this feeling that you have this immense possibility and just to do so much with it. at the same time, it can be quite anxious. It can be something that makes you anxious because you go like, I have 88 hours. What am I going to do with them? But at the same time, it's just such a wonderful process that, I mean, I think we chose at the end the maybe most, I wouldn't say most interesting, the most kind of musical, because for me also a film is a kind of a symphony. You know, there's something very musical. It's like it's all these movements. So I try to put on the notes, the right notes, to make the symphony.
Mhm.
That's how I chose.
Right. So Hushig would actually like you to make another movie out of those 88 hours, uh, or a few movies.
Okay.
Uh,
Episode
uh,
2, episode 3.
but we're going to start wrapping things up, and we are uh, actually immensely grateful to you, Tamara, for being with us today. I think I can speak for all of us by saying how much we appreciate the film and your work in general. And I hope that more of our audience gets to see your other films. Maybe we can have a film festival via Zoom.
Well, there's DVD of mine that's out.
Mhm.
You can order, and there's all my films in
Okay,
it. My 3 documentary films and my fiction film. My first short.
excellent.
It's and I think it's available in the world. Uh, it's
Okay,
yeah, you can find it's called Nouvelle Vague, like the new wave Armenian cinema, 4 films by Tamara Stepanyan,
okay,
and it's available. So you can, I mean, you and everybody else who cares,
excellent.
and yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that. Okay, great. Before everyone starts leaving the webinar, I just wanted to remind you that on February 12th, we have a webinar about Armenian communities in Syria and Iran, February 12th at 12 o'clock. And we will, of course, advertise that so you can register and join us then. Thank you again, Tamara, for
You.
joining us. Thank you again for the film, and thank you everyone else as well. Thank you, Talat, for standing by in case my Wi-Fi went out, and for your question as well. And thank you everybody else for your questions. And thanks again. Uh, and
Thank
it
you
was
very
very
much.
nice having you.
It was a
Thank you.
pleasure for me.
Pleasure was mine. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.